So Jason,
Howdy.
yeah, perfect. The first thing I have for you, I think it's a softball type question, um, but before I go into that, can you give me some stats on the holiday giving season? What in
Sure.
2013? Yeah, tell me how many
Yeah.
donations were raised.
Yeah. I'll just give you a quick little background. The month of December typically, and most of you already are going to know the statistic. In the month of December, about 33% of all online donations happen for the entire year. So that means a third of your fundraising is happening in the month of December typically. I'm sure lots of you host annual galas or dinners or different fundraising events, but historically about a third of all online donations are going to happen in the month of December. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. People are know what they're going to be paying in taxes. They're seeing that they've got some money left over at the end of the year. The holidays are coming around, so they're feeling a little bit more charitable. There's a lot of different reasons for that. But one statistic, Ben, that I think is really a shame is that 60% of holiday donors don't repeat their donation. They're not repeat givers. So 60% of gifts that come in the month of December are not going to be repeat gifts. And I think a lot of that is because there's a difference between a campaign and just the donate button or just traditional donation processing on your website, right? The people who are finding your website and donating through that avenue are typically going to be people who are engaged with your organization. Whereas when you're running a crowdfunding campaign, which a lot of holiday campaigns and end of the year campaigns are going to be crowdfunding campaigns. Those are going to be people who are recruited as donors by your current supporters. So a lot of those people are not going to be repeat givers. And so when you're thinking about end of the year fundraising, and even, this goes right into 2015, right? Everybody's always really happy in December because all of these gifts come in, and then everyone's frantic in January when it's a little bit, there's a little bit of a drought as far as donations happen. But I think that, really not just getting people to give at the end of the year, but actually, making sure that you're creating ways to cultivate those donors is really important to think about when you've got end of the year campaigns coming up.
Perfect. So you kind of answered the question I was going to ask you, which is, why is this the best time of the year? And I'll see if I can, tweak it a little bit to make it still a relevant question to you, Jason.
Sure.
But there's a lot of noise out there in terms of, you said there's about 33%, right, of the donations coming in here. That means there's a lot of giving going on, a lot of donors donating. And, myself, and I know this is a little anecdotal, I'm giving to, a few different organizations at this point of the year. Why is it so smart to do it in this one when there's a lot of noise going on?
Well, the reason it's smart to do to have a sustained effort at the end of the year is, that's when your donors are actively giving. So, people who you may have reached out to and made an ask to earlier in the year, and they weren't really in a position to give, now might actually be in a position to give. And so, really, it's just about meeting the donors where they're at. It's not, it really has nothing to do with December people, it has nothing to do with the actual month. It has to do with, the donor's situation, not the situation of your nonprofit. Because obviously there's an urgent need for funding year round, right? A nonprofit's needs aren't nearly as cyclical a nonprofit's needs are not nearly as cyclical as their fundraising efforts are.
So it's kind of like two components, like expectations of the donors. This is the time of the year to give it, and also that's when they understand what they have left for the year. Would that be correct?
Yeah, well, and they also are, they're also being asked, right, from the people who, really have those end of the year campaigns going. They're also getting their end of the year bonuses. They're also, they're already spending a lot of money, at the end of the year on presents, on parties. And really the holidays, one of the reasons that they're so effective is that they fall towards the end of the fiscal year for most individuals, right? They know what their income is going to be. They know what their taxes are. They're getting their bonuses, as I said. So they're able to better understand their financial means, and so it makes it easier for them to decide whether or not they're able to give and how much.
So right before I ask, I have one follow-up question to something that you had talked about in there. But for people who are just entering, if you do have a question, again, I don't want it to be just myself asking questions to Jason. If he has any questions to ask me, submit it into the questions pane. Right after I'm done asking a few questions, we're gonna open it up for you to ask, and we'd love to get those going right now. So. And also, again, you can just raise your hand if you have a question at any point to make it much easier if you can't find the questions pane. Jason, you talked about the recurring donors and that the problem might be that these are, kind of people of people, friends of friends, something like that. And then you're talking about cultivating. How can you cultivate those like friends of friends to make them into recurring donors? What might be some good tips for that?
Well, I think to get them in the door initially, crowdfunding is a great way to do that. And this will tie right in. Hey, Dawn, I see your question right there. I'm going to get to it in just a second. There's a big difference between a crowdfunding campaign and a fundraising campaign that links up, as far as online to the donate button on your website or to a form on your website. And the difference being this is a crowdfunding campaign has a start date, it has an end date, and it has a set dollar amount as a goal. And the purpose of the campaign is to rally the crowd, right, the power of the crowd, who are people who aren't necessarily involved with your organization. So they're not the people who have been getting your email newsletter all year. They're not the people that are donating on your website or sending in checks all year. They're the people whose cousin or friend saw it on Twitter because that person is a supporter of your organization and then clicked on it and decided, because they see the goal, because they feel like they can be a part of that story, they want to give as well. And so there's really, there's a lot of options out there as far as online giving, for donors to interact with you, right? They can click the donate button that pops right up on your email newsletter that goes out to them. They can click the donate button right on your website. They can register for an end-of-the-year event and bid on auction items. They can participate in a crowdfunding campaign that you use something like Indiegogo or CommitChange or CrowdRise to create. So there's really, there's a lot of different ways that you can take in that money. But the key is, you're not trying to just get that one-time donation. You're trying to create a relationship, to cultivate a relationship. And we talk all the time. I know, Ben, you and I have talked about this at length about the Ice Bucket Challenge campaign.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now the ALS Foundation has to figure out, what do we do with these tens of thousands of new contacts? They all gave one time because it was a funny internet meme. What do we do now to actually make them passionate about our cause? And so when you think about your follow-up, sure, when you get an online donation, of course you want to send them their tax receipt and their thank you note, right? But then what's the next step? What's the second email? What's the third email? What's the 8th email that they get as the follow-up to that? When are they getting that first phone call? That it's really important to have a plan to follow up, once that donation comes in, and also to help educate them on, the organization. A lot of times crowdfunding or end-of-the-year giving will revolve around a particular campaign or a particular story, which is great because personal stories are really helpful for that, eliciting an emotional response from the donor. But once they've contributed to that initial story, right? How do we actually educate them about the meaningful work that our organization is doing? And that can only come through an effective follow-up.
Perfect. So to kind of switch gears, I don't want to make it myself all the time. We have a few questions already in. We're going to start with Dawn, who asked a question in the questions. Then we'll go to Kristen Jackson, who had submitted something via the form over the weekend, whatever it was, and then Lindsay Parsons. And again, if anybody else has questions that are follow-ups to what Dawn, Kristen, or Lindsay are asking, or something about this, submit it right to the questions pane. But Dawn, we are going to unmute you, so you'll be able to talk to Jason right now. Can you hear us, Don?
Yes. So my question is, essentially, we've been doing a fundraising campaign that started in October, and I wondered if it's appropriate to announce to people how much we've raised to date, or would you shy away from that?
That's a great question. I think it really depends on the campaign. One great thing about telling people how much money you've raised is that they can see that their donation is having a tangible impact, right? So if I see that the fundraising goal is $500 and they're 60% of the way there, and I put $100 in, I get an instant gratification because I see that little thermometer go up, right? I get to see that I've had a tangible impact on that effort. Now, do you need to show everybody how much you're receiving in donations throughout the entire year and what % of your annual budget is coming through donations? No, that's not really necessary. But as far as recruiting new donors and really getting, giving them some gratification as to their involvement and their participation, I think a lot of times, a crowdfunding campaign is a great way to show that there's a goal, because the goal also tells people that time is of the essence, right? Because you've got a start date. This campaign that you've got, it started in October, and it's going to be ending, right? There's got to be an end date to it. And so if you say, okay, well, our goal is, $5,000, and we're 80% of the way there, and we really need that last 20%, but we've only got till December 31st to do it, you create that little sense of urgency. Whereas if you don't have a start date and an end date, and you're not telling people how much money you've actually raised and what the goal is, you might not be able to create that same sense of urgency for the fundraising.
Great, thank you.
Does that kind of make sense?
Yes.
Cool. Dawn, where are you calling in from?
Santa Barbara.
Oh, nice. So I guess we'll go to the next one here, Ben, if that's okay. And Dawn, feel free to ask more questions, put them in the chat, and we'll get to them right after this. So, Ben, if you could unmute Lindsay here. Hey, Lindsay, can you hear us?
It's actually Kristen. Kristen submitted something to the form, so we'll start with Kristen and then move over
I'm
to
sorry.
Lindsay immediately after.
Okay, sure.
Here we go. Kristen, can you hear us?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, hey, Kristen.
Okay, good. I wasn't sure if my microphone was going to work.
You're all good. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Dallas.
All right, cool.
Yes. Unfortunately, we don't have short weather right now, but I'm dealing with it. I'm I'm going to make it. So we have a Facebook page, and we have about over 1,200 likes, which I guess in the grand scheme of things isn't a whole lot, but considering that we really haven't spent a lot of time and money to get those likes, I feel pretty good about it. But I've never been able to figure out how to use Facebook to raise funds. So we've never gotten donors from Facebook, and people are always saying, well, why don't you use Facebook? And I'm like, well, I've tried, but I don't really know what I'm doing wrong or the right way to approach using Facebook as a way to fundraise.
Sure. Well, let me ask you a question, Kristen, about your donors. What's the average gift that comes into your organization? Like, what's the size of the gift?
I would say on average, well, see, let me also preface this with saying that we're working on building a better donor base until, like, our organization looks different, not because we wanted it to, just because I, as an executive director, haven't been very good at fundraising. So we're mostly grant funded.
Gotcha.
And we know that that is not sustainable, and we're trying to change it to look like, how nonprofits should look, which is what, like 80% individual donor and 20% grants and foundations. I think that should be the right ratio.
Well, here's the reason that I asked, Kristen, is Facebook really over the last few years has kind of gotten stinky as far as showing your posts to the people who like your page.
Oh, okay.
So
I didn't know that.
When you make a post to Facebook, realistically, if you've got 1,200 people liking your page, realistically, only a dozen or so are ever actually going to see that post in their news feed. And so
Wow,
the reason
that's
I asked
horrible. I had no idea.
the reason I ask what the size of your average gift is because I talk to organizations all the time that use CommitChange, that use the company that I work for their online fundraising, and their average gift is like a few $100s. And you can use Facebook ads and promote posts very effectively so that they actually do end up getting seen by your constituents. And that's really the tough thing about Facebook is not so much getting creating a compelling message. You guys can figure out how to do that for your particular organization. The difficult thing is figuring out how to use Facebook to actually make sure that your constituents that do like your page and do support your organization are actually seeing the post. And so
I had no idea. Okay.
Yeah, promoted posts are a great way to do that. It's really easy once you have a credit card connected to your Facebook account. You can boost a post for as little as $5 and help other people to see that. And of course, the same thing is true. The same thing is true with Twitter about sharing. When you post something on Facebook and you want your audience to share something, so like let's say you have a crowdfunding campaign, it's the end of the year, and you share it with your constituents, but you want them to rally their friends and family to participate as well. Make sure you're asking people to share it. Just posting it and hoping that people share it is not good enough. And the same goes for Twitter. When you have something you want people to retweet, you have to say, please retweet on there so that those donors actually know what you're asking them.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, Facebook is a great way to communicate with your constituents. Though I mean, there's very few places where you can go and directly message your donors and have that intimate relationship and intimate conversation with them. So Facebook is a great way to do that. I like to connect as well, depending on the organization, personally with people. Using my own personal Facebook page, especially if you're the executive director of your organization and you have some major donors that you want to cultivate. Don't stop at just having them like your page. Add them as a friend and communicate with them that way. Because on your personal page, I'm sure you've got great stories about the mission that are very relatable to that donor base.
Yes. Okay. Cool. That's helpful. Thank you.
Cool. Who do we have next, Ben?
Well, we have Lindsay. But one second, if anybody else has any questions. Again, we've got one question that's current. So if there's any other questions at any time, just submit them through the questions pane. Type them into chat. Raise your hand.
Yeah, it could be. It could be anything too. We've got the new year is getting launched. I'd love to hear what some of your plans are for the upcoming year as far as fundraising goals. What are maybe too, if you guys could post up a couple of questions about things that maybe didn't go so well in the past as far as end of year fundraising. I mean, the company that I work for, CommitChange, we have a fundraising suite that includes donation processing, crowdfunding, event ticketing, and we've seen people be incredibly successful and also incredibly unsuccessful with their campaigns. And there's lots of different reasons why campaigns are successful or unsuccessful, but would love to hear from you guys on that as well. So
yeah.
With that, let's go ahead to Lindsay here.
Yeah, the trick is just learning from those unsuccesses. But Lindsay, can you hear us right now?
Okay, so I guess we don't have Lindsay audio, but I've got her question here. I'll go ahead and read this out, Lindsay, and hopefully I can answer your question. If you end up being unmuted there, just feel free to chime in as well. So Lindsay asks, our big dilemma is how often to ask and whether we're wearing out our welcome with our mailing list by asking too often. And all of you guys work with nonprofits, so I'm sure you are on countless mailing lists of other nonprofits as well. As all of you guys know, there's nothing worse than wearing out your welcome with a donor because that unsubscribe button is right there and easy to find, and everybody knows what it'll do for them. So, this is a great question, and I think it's a very relevant question for the end of the year. The reason, Lindsay, I think this is really relevant for the end of the year is because people's tolerance for asks actually goes up at the end of the year. So you might want to have a set of 4 or 5 emails that you send on the 18th of December, on the 20th of December, on Christmas Day, and then 2 or 3 days after that, and make the asks a little bit different. But you might try one as a soft ask, one as a little harder ask. One is just general, happy holidays. Also, if you want to donate, here's a link. But people's tolerance for how often you're able to ask, to make an ask in an email, is their tolerance actually goes up towards the end of the year. So don't be afraid. Whereas if you're only sending 1 or 2 emails a month for the rest of the year, go ahead and do 5 or 6 for the holidays. And people will appreciate that you're being persistent and keeping after them. Very rarely is a donor going to click the donate button and give on the very first email that you ever send them. And so, coming up with some unique stories, some unique ways to frame that ask is really important. And you should have that, you should have those all scheduled and all set up, prior to actually having that set of emails go out. You can do some really great targeting. I don't know, Lindsay, what you use for your emails as well, but you can actually target people who opened the first email or people who didn't open the second email. When I send a fundraising letter, a lot of times what I like to do is send an email with the one subject line and send it out to my entire database, and then rerun the report and find out who didn't open that email and change the subject line and send the very same email with a different subject line to that group because they didn't even look at the first email. So there's a lot of things that you can do with your email solution to really be stealthy about not stealthy to really be innovative with the way that you're actually framing those asks and what groups you're emailing and when. And a great way to do that is just to run a report of all the people that didn't open your first holiday giving email and send them the very same email with a different subject line.
I just learned something that I'm going to take out of this immediately.
Lindsay's got
she has 2
Lindsay has,
follow-ups.
yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and I'll jump. Lindsay's got a couple of follow-up questions here, everybody, so we'll go ahead and jump right into these too, Lindsay. One of her follow-ups is, what's a soft versus a hard ask? A soft ask is sending out a newsletter about a touching story that happened in your organization, and then at the bottom of it say, every little bit helps. Here's a link to donate if you'd like. A hard ask is when you're sending an email that says, we need your help. Here's the end of year fundraising. Here's what our goal is, and we would love if you can participate. So a soft ask is where they have the ability to donate in the form, and maybe it's almost an afterthought in the email, right? It's at the very bottom, like the very last thing. A hard ask is where you're actually sending the email with the intention of asking for a donation, asking for a gift. And another follow-up question here from Lindsay. She asks, how important is it to remove past recent donors from asks, and how recent should past be? That's a good question, Lindsay. I don't know if I have a good answer to that. Again, the question was, how important is it to remove past donors from asks, and how recent should past be? So, if somebody just gave a donation to your nonprofit, what she's asking is, how long do I need to wait before, sending them another ask because they just donated? And going back to that wearing out your welcome, if I just contributed $100 to your organization and you send me an email tomorrow asking for another $100, it might turn me off a little bit. So I think this depends on your organization. I think it depends on your donors. And I think it depends especially on the amount that they're donating. A donor who gives writes a $10,000 check and mails it in, it better not be asked the next day, and it better not get an email solicitation. Now, would they be okay with getting a soft ask? That's a little bit of a different story, right? So that's where we go back to the soft versus hard ask, right? Because your donor who just gave $10,000, if they get that soft ask at the end of a newsletter, they don't think that that's really directed at them. So it really depends, I think, on the situation for how recent you need to remove past donors.
Perfect.
So what do we got next, Ben?
So we have a few questions from people who are not here, but that doesn't mean we don't want to ask them. I'm recording this for everybody, just so you know if there's something that you miss here, you can watch it again, listen to it again, whatever that may be. But for their consideration, I'm going to ask those questions immediately. This question comes from Alice Edwards, who again is not here, but she asks, how do we get funding when we don't know anyone to give it to us?
Okay, so the very first thing you should do if you're really, if you're just starting to cultivate a donor base is you need to create an email list, right? Your emails are going to be the most effective way by far to solicit online donations because it's something that goes directly into the inbox. It's if you don't have an audience, if you don't have 1,200 likes on Facebook already, if you don't have existing major relationships, a great way to get that email list started is to put a newsletter sign-up sheet on your website. If you have a website out there and you're generating any kind of web traffic, rather than asking for donations as the front and center ask on the website, ask people to sign up for the newsletter so that you're able to cultivate an actual list of supporters of the organization. And this is a great place as well if your organization is just getting started, where you recruit the board to help you build out that email list.
Just to kind of ask, do you have any hints on what might be some good tools? A lot of what Grassroots does is, we don't have anything necessarily that helps right now building out a pop-up or a light box for newsletter signups. You got anything that might be helpful for people to immediately capture that type of information?
Yeah, there's a tool called Sumo Me, and you can find it at appsumo.com. Maybe you can share that with everybody after. But Sumo Me, what it is a little pop-up that it's a form you can embed onto your nonprofit's website, and it's a little pop-up that happens after just a few seconds of somebody being on your website that says, hey, would you like to sign up for our newsletter? And either you can sign up and hit enter and just goes away. It says thanks, and now you're back on the nonprofit website, or you can click the X and go right back to browsing the website. But it being a pop-up, being a little dialog box that pops up right in your face is a great way to to really make that an obvious piece of what I'm supposed to do next on the website. And again, that's AppSumo is the company, and I believe the tool is called Sumo Me.
Yeah, two things to that. These pop-ups are super effective for emails, and actually a little bit of a tip. The AppSumo, I get their newsletter, their blog, and that's an excellent blog for people who want to figure out how to get email addresses in, which is important. I recommend that as well. I read the person's Noah K, and he's very good at that. We have some more questions coming in, and this comes from Latoya. I am going to find her and unmute her. Give me 1 second. There you go. Can you hear us, Latoya? Using headphones. So I will ask the question if
no problem.
If you can then answer it. How early or late can we send out holiday appeals that incorporate the hard ask?
So I think I wouldn't send any holiday appeals before December. If it's happening before December, I would make it a Thanksgiving or a different messaging rather than being a holiday giving appeal. That being said, Giving Tuesday is also on December 2nd, and so I always, as a general rule of thumb, I don't begin my holiday fundraising hardcore until after. I mean, I have it planned, right, and I have all of my emails and asks pre-written and pre-scheduled. But I don't send the first one out until after Giving Tuesday, because Giving Tuesday is really an amazing charitable effort that happens all across the world, where donors are browsing websites, they're browsing campaigns, they're looking actively for the hashtag Giving Tuesday on social media to find nonprofits to contribute to. So as a general rule of thumb, I never do anything before December 2nd. As far as how and when you say the hard ask, right? When do you make the hard ask? I would definitely do the soft ask a few times before doing the hard ask towards the end of that campaign, because that way you're getting in. The hard ask is the one where this is an urgent mission that we have. We need your help. Sending that first really will dilute your soft asks later in your email chain. So I would make a few of those soft asks before actually sending out that hard ask at the end of my email series.
Great. We have 2 more questions on the form, but before we even go to that, we have, well, you're welcome, Latoya. We have 2 more on the form. But if anybody has any questions before that, we certainly want to get to anybody's, burning topics. This one is from an anonymous person, but we've touched on a little bit already. But how soon is too soon to begin fundraising, and when is it too late?
Well, let's split out actually starting fundraising and then planning. It's never too early to start planning your fundraising, right? And I just posted a blog post the other day about, and Ben, I think you sent that out to everyone already,
absolutely.
About last-minute fundraising for procrastinators, right? A lot of times, we've got all of, our entire year's fundraising efforts, and then December's upon us, and nothing is ready, right? Planning ahead is the #1 way to make your campaigns effective, the #1 way to make your end-of-the-year campaigns, or any campaigns for that matter, effective. The reason being is that you can solicit the help of your key stakeholders, you can solicit the help of your board members, you can solicit the help of any influencers that might be supporters of your organization, and make those asks and get that prepared earlier to really get that prepped prior to actually launching the campaign. So it's really an effective way to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row before launching anything. And when you schedule it out, when you map it out, what your plan is going to be, it really makes it easier to see. Okay, well, a hard ask makes sense here, or a soft ask makes sense in this moment. And then when you have all that done, you can be out there when the campaign is actually running, being a cheerleader, and not worrying about, okay, I now have to come up with the content for this email that I want to send out. But yeah, as far as when to actually begin fundraising, if you have a holiday campaign that's going to be on a crowdfunding site or something like that, I think it's never too early to have it published and out there and available for people to find organically. If you're just doing it through the donate button on your website, again, I usually like to wait till after December 2nd to get that started.
I feel like you're like Jiminy Cricket. It's something I've been doing as my planning to off myself a little bit. So.
Well, we went through this a lot for Giving Tuesday. We had a lot of CommitChange clients that they didn't publish their campaign until the morning of Giving Tuesday, and that's just silly. The so CommitChange, you can create crowdfunding campaigns just like you could on Indiegogo, where there's a landing page, there's different amounts you can give, and you're soliciting donations for a set goal that you're trying to reach. And there's no reason whatsoever to not precede that campaign with some of your bigger donors, with your board members who you already know are going to participate and are going to have the most powerful social impact, social sharing impact on the campaign. To have everybody have all the links, have everything ready to go. That way, the day the campaign actually does launch, it's already live. People know the link. People have been asked to share it, and the campaign is live out there. So if you got a campaign that's going to run for 30 days, publish it 5 days before it actually goes live, and go ahead and start testing things and getting it out there a few days early.
We have another question that just came in, and this is coming from Anna, and I'm going to unmute her right now. Anna, can you hear us? Don't have a mic. That's fine.
No worries. So I'll go ahead and read her question if that's all right, Ben.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Anna, post up where you're calling from too. I'd love to hear where everybody's at. So Anna asks, what crowdfunding sites would you recommend and why? Well, I've got to tell you, Anna, being the Chief Marketing Officer for CommitChange, I'm a tad bit biased. I will say this, and I'd love to talk to anybody about CommitChange later. I'll do some shameless self-promotion later later on if you don't mind, Ben. But one thing I will say, Anna, is when you're looking for crowdfunding sites, when you're looking at a crowdfunding site, one thing you really want to make sure you look for is that the site is not skimming off of your donations. It's not taking a percentage of each donation that comes in. So what I mean by that is almost every site out there that processes donations or allows you to accept donations is going to have a credit card fee. There's no way around that. They're all using merchant processors to process credit card fees. But not all sites are going to have the same transaction fees for your campaign. And CommitChange is a little bit unique in that we actually don't take any cut of the donations that come in because our clients pay a monthly fee to have access to the platform. But that's something that's really important, especially if you think you might be raising more than just a few $1,000s, because if you look at Indiegogo, for example, if your campaign does not reach its funding goal on Indiegogo, Indiegogo takes 9% of the entire amount raised as a fee. And so, you think about that. If you're raising $10,000 and you've got to pay 9% in admin fees, that's a whole lot to pay. So when you're looking around at crowdfunding sites, I'd be happy to, to tell you what's out there, and certainly would love for you to take a look at CommitChange. Make sure that that site doesn't have exorbitant platform fees that they're going to be taking a huge cut of your donors' transactions.
Well, let me ask you, because it's quite clear that I'm a fan of CommitChange, otherwise we wouldn't have partnered with you. But just to kind of know about some other crowdfunding sites, I know you mentioned you're kind of a reason for a little bit of distaste towards one, but who did you guys model yourselves on? Did you have some that you were looking at that had good aspects that you thought would be good to incorporate with CommitChange?
Yeah, some features that you want to make sure your crowdfunding campaign has is you want to make sure that they have social sharing and commenting baked in so that donors can make comments and make recommendations and feel like they're a part of something. You want to have different gift amounts that are pre-built into your campaign. And one thing I will say, and I've seen hundreds and hundreds of campaigns come through CommitChange, the campaigns that are effective are the ones that revolve around a personal story. And actually, I'd like to take a couple of minutes on this, if that's okay, Ben. Can you give me the control of the screen?
Yes, I can.
Or let me share my screen.
I think you can do it now.
Okay, cool. Here we go. Yeah, if anybody can't see my screen, just let me know. I want to show you an actual campaign that was run on CommitChange and talk about it for a second, because the story piece I think is very important. So there's a young lady over at Auburn University, and really amazing young woman. She was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer a few months ago, and she decided that she wanted to raise funding to end childhood cancer, to fund childhood cancer research. And so and all of the funds raised in her campaign are going to go to this particular hospital that's doing childhood cancer research. So rather than taking the approach of here's this hospital that does amazing work, and their nonprofit's goal is to fund childhood cancer research and to eradicate the disease, and this is all the ways that they're doing it. What Kayla decided to do, her name is Kayla, is she actually decided to create a personal story about her experience with cancer and use that to raise funding for childhood cancer awareness. And so when you're creating a crowdfunding campaign, really about what stories are created out of your organization, what stories that people can actually relate to, and Kayla actually used this great line, hashtag 100 ways 100 days, what will you do to end childhood cancer? And people all over social media, if you go to Twitter and look up hashtag 100 ways 100 days, people are posting all kinds of things about what they want to do to help end childhood cancer, what they would be willing to do. But what Kayla really did that was effective, you notice they raised over $300,000 in the course of just a month and a half. With just I think it's her and her mom running this campaign for their very small nonprofit, Open Hands Overflowing Hearts. They really focused on Kayla's personal story, even though the funding is going towards a much larger nonprofit with a mission and a story of its own. And so creating a personal story around your crowdfunding campaigns is really going to help you to be effective in rallying not only your own supporters, but then the friends and family of those people who already support your organization. Sorry, I got long-winded on that one, Ben, but I hope that helps.
That's great. I'll keep you as the presenter. It didn't affect the recording whatsoever, so if you have anything else to showcase, you can do so pretty easily. We have LaToya and then Rami. So I remember that LaToya's microphone wasn't working, so I can read that question out for you, Jason. But how do you test appeals?
By sending them out, I think. You should certainly be tracking emails that you send. Whatever email tool you're using. I'm a big fan of MailChimp. We actually use it for our own company's marketing efforts, but Constant Contact is great. There's lots of tools out there that you can use. I think a great way to test them is by sending them out and seeing what the response is. But make sure that you track the donations that are coming in for those appeals. So if I'm sending out, if I'm using CommitChange, and I'll use, actually, we could just use this nonprofit here as an example. If I want to run an appeal and I go in and say, okay, this is going out on a Thursday, and we think most donations that come in are going to happen within the first few days of sending out that appeal. Go into whatever tool you're using to collect donations and sort by date and look at what donations came in after sending out that appeal, so I can actually track what actually was do some A/B testing on what's being more effective. Maybe there's one subject line that's more effective than the next, or one particular type of appeal that's more effective than the next. The only way you're going to be able to understand what's being effective is to track the funds raised as a result. So that's great. And certainly, internally, anytime you're going to create an appeal and you want to send it out, I would definitely test that appeal with a few people in your organization or a few friends, just to say, hey, does this sound does this sound about right? Does this sound like something that would be great and resonate with our donors?
And I can kind of follow up on the different type of software for the email stuff. A lot of them have nonprofit pricing. I remember Vertical Response has like up to 10,000 subscribers for free if you're using it on Salesforce. You might want to check that out. MailChimp allows free up to, I believe it was 2,000 subscribers. Again, check all these out. Grassroots has a partnership with SendGrid that's 50% off. So there's a lot of tools out there, and there's a lot of offers for nonprofits to utilize them. But let's go to Rami, and I'm going to unmute you in a second if you do have a microphone. There you go. Can you hear us, Rami?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm guessing there is not a working microphone, so I'm going to mute.
Well, on to the next.
Yeah, but I will ask his question. We are a new nonprofit organization. We are intimidated by this campaign for donations. How do we begin? Where do we begin?
I think you can always start small if you're a new organization. I see campaigns all the time where their entire fundraising goal is just a few $100s, and so that's a great way to kind of test the waters. You always want to have a successful campaign, right? And the worst thing that you could do is start a campaign for $1 million and only raise 1,000, right? So create a campaign for $1,000. Have that be your goal, and see if you can be successful in that, because being successful in a campaign will help you to figure out what works, what doesn't work for the next campaign that you run. So certainly there's nothing wrong with starting small, and if you were intimidated by that campaign, let me see here, I can probably find other campaigns that are much smaller in nature and in their goal. So if you're a new organization just getting started, there's plenty that you can do to run just a small campaign to really get things going for your organization. So let me see. See, here's one right here from Raising a Reader. Let's see what their goal is. Yeah, so here's one. It just got started today. They've raised $200. They've got only 2 people have donated, and they're trying to raise $2,000. So they're 10% of the way to their goal, and $2,000 certainly. If they can rally 20 people to donate $100, they'll have that covered. So certainly you can start small, but Rami, one thing I would say is make sure you get that email list together before you try and start sending out a campaign, because I see campaigns start all the time that they create a campaign and think that people are just going to organically find it through CommitChange or through Indiegogo or whatever it is that they're using. Certainly any nonprofit fundraising company, whether you're CrowdRise or Razoo or eTapestry or CommitChange, are going to have a community-based site where donors come and browse our website to find nonprofit organizations to donate to. But you can't count on those. You can't count on those people being the ones who are going to contribute to the campaign. So I would say first, if you're a new nonprofit, go ahead and get the free version of MailChimp and get to that 2,000 subscriber maximum limit, and then go ahead and create a campaign and solicit those 2,000 supporters of your organization to try to participate.
We have another question for Emily. She does not have a mic, but she's got the question. I can read it for you.
Yeah, sure.
It's how to make email appeals more effective, how to make recipients more likely to open the email, and then how to make them more likely to click on the links to donate in the email. This is like ratio of text to images, et cetera, different like aspects of building a more effective email. And that's actually another question that was in the form as well, so it'll help two people. And Emily's from Concord, Massachusetts, and I've got to give a shout out to another Massachusetts. I'm on Atlantic Ave, right near South Station. So
awesome, awesome. Well, Emily, there's two things that I would say about making your make your email more effective as far as the donation goes and how to get people to open them. Number one is the subject line. The subject line has to be very simple, right? Don't ever make it more than 3 words, and don't ever use words like donate or free or don't use words that are going to sound like spam. And so if you have a 3-word phrase that you can use to for this thing right here, I might make the subject line of my email "Bring families together," right? That gives me a little tease as to what's inside of the email, but it doesn't come off as being an actual solicitation in the subject line. And that subject line is so critical, because if that's not right, then people aren't even going to get into the actual meat and potatoes of what you're trying to say in the actual email. So spend some time working on that subject line, test a few, and again, I can't emphasize enough, using the right tools can really help a lot. I mean, I know MailChimp even has a little subject line tester that you can use, practice subject lines, and MailChimp will tell you how likely they are to be delivered to the end user. For the donate link in your email, there's 2 things that I've seen to be effective. Number one is make that button huge. Okay, so make the user experience. When you go, so I designed the front end of the CommitChange website, right? When you go to CommitChange.com and you go, oh wait, I got to log out here. Everybody can still see my screen, I hope.
Absolutely, I can see.
Yeah. So when you look at this homepage, there is no question what CommitChange wants you to do. They want you to get started or request a demo. So when you're building out that email, make sure your call to action is just very obvious, and make that link, the front and center link in the email. I see a lot of times, there are emails that go out and there'll be 5 or 6 actual links to other newsletters linking away from what you're actually trying to get people to do. And then the donate button is just so tiny on the very bottom that says, hey, if you'd like to help us out, here's the donate button. And it's just a little plain text HTML, hypertext link. And you really want to have a button in there, not a hypertext link. Even if your button is actually just pointing right back to your website, to your donate form. So those would be the two main things. I mean, we could talk hours and hours and hours on email marketing. And I actually have a blog I wrote a few months back, Emily, that I'll have Ben share with everybody. It's specifically about sending effective fundraising emails. So I'll share that with everybody after we're done too.
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback off of that one, especially because a lot of people are actually going to be reading your emails through mobile. So Jason's point about making your buttons big is pretty salient, because you want at least 32 pixels, and you can measure that out with certain tools. I know that they're available as extensions to Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox, but a person's finger is at least 32 pixels, so you want to make it big enough so they can easily click on that button as well. So keep that in mind too when you're sending out an email. A lot of people are consuming that through their mobile devices, their iPads, whatever else that might be out there. We don't have any other questions that I'm seeing out there right now, but I got one more question, and that'll give people a chance to ask last questions, and then if you want to kind of wrap it up, give some more information, Jason. always happy
Sure.
for you to do that. But let me get back to that. You've been talking about some successful, campaigns. Is there any that you feel out there that have been, designed for this holiday giving season? On CommitChange especially, because that's what you're looking at, that you think are set up for success, or they're remarkable campaigns, and then a little bit about their, aspects that are helping them to be achieving, success.
I mean, there aren't any in particular campaigns that I think of off the top of my head that I would show as a demo. But I will say the ones who are actually being successful, the ones that we're seeing have a lot of success as far as actual campaigns, are the ones who have really strong stories, as I mentioned before, in the actual in the meat and potatoes of the campaign. One thing that I do see though is that about half of the campaigns that have no video will never reach their goal. So when you're creating a campaign, having your explanation of what you're doing in video makes you, 100 times more likely to actually reach your goals as far as fundraising. So the production value is not important. The quality of the video is the background and the graphics and everything is not important. What's important is the content and the actual words in the video and somebody saying. So if you go to that Open Hands Overflowing Hearts campaign, that video is actually just Kayla's dad talking about Kayla's story, and that has helped him, again, reach almost $500,000 in donations in just a few months. So if you are going to create a holiday giving campaign, don't ever do it without making a video, even if it's just you sitting there with your iPhone and recording a quick little message.
Perfect. That was actually going to follow up. I could ask you, just an iPhone, you could put that directly to like YouTube or Vimeo, right?
Yep, you just upload it to YouTube, and then most crowdfunding sites will let you just copy and paste that link into that campaign that you're trying to fundraise for.
Great. Jason, I want to give you the floor to kind of, wrap up any last things that you have to, discuss about, CommitChange. Certainly, we're in this to learn a little bit more about fundraising.
Sure. Well, being the Chief Marketing Officer, there's nothing I love more than shameless self-promotion. So I want to invite everybody, though. You're welcome to create a free account on CommitChange. If you go to our website and you go to the pricing page, we actually have a free version that you can sign up for, that you can actually use some of our basic crowdfunding tools for free. Also, if you're a member of grassroots.org, we actually have special pricing for grassroots.org members if you are interested in setting up some of our fundraising tools. But everyone is more than welcome to go make a free account, create your profile on there, and play around with our tools if you like. We're a little bit different than some of the fundraising companies out there, and there's really 3 reasons for that. And I'll just go through this super quickly, and then I'll let you guys go. And if you want more information, again, add me on LinkedIn as a pal, or just go to commitchange.com and check it out. But really the 3 ways that we're different is we really try to focus on the donor experience. So you'll notice that all of the tools that are built out through CommitChange are actually integrated into your website. So if I go to Fish Food Banks here, it's a wonderful nonprofit in Pierce County in Washington, and I click the donate button on Fish Food Banks, this is the CommitChange widget. It embeds directly into the website, and it's a very seamless, integrated option for processing donations on your website. You also have the crowdfunding campaigns. You can create and run events. You can manage your donors on the back end. And all of this, we really try to focus on being very simple tools to use, but also very donor-focused tools. And then, our business model makes us a little bit unique in that whether you're selling tickets for a fundraiser or running a crowdfunding campaign or just processing donations on your website, CommitChange does not now and won't ever take a cut of the donations that you raise. So that's really our commitment, to be 100% transparent to the nonprofits that we work with. And you can compare that on our website if you want to some of the other tools out there, what their actual platform fees are. And so we're really proud of this, and it's been helping us to grow very quickly in the nonprofit world. The company's only about a year old, but we've already got hundreds of nonprofits using our service, and we're really happy about our partnership with Grassroots, that we offer a little discounted pricing to you guys. So certainly if there's something I can help you with, or you're interested, or you just want to talk more about email marketing for your nonprofit, or about crowdfunding, or about end of the year giving, please feel free to reach out to me. I love to talk about this stuff with anybody that wants to listen. So.
Great. Again, I appreciate you doing this, and I'm thankful for everybody to tuning in. There's just a few things that I'd like to kind of wrap up on my side. First is that we will be sending out a brief survey. It's only going to be about 2 questions. It'll be what might you think there's improvements. We're always looking to make this a more informative, beneficial thing. We're going to continue to do these office hours to help people. So that'll be there probably about tomorrow. And as well as Jason has given us a lot of great resources, a lot of tools to help out. And I want to make sure that they're easy to get without going through about an hour webinar. So I'm going to watch this webinar again, record all of those, those tidbits that he gave us, and I will categorize the questions by the time they were asked. So if you want to jump to a specific question, it'll be super simple to do that via YouTube, and that'll go out in an email to everybody who's attended, as well as the link where Jason mentioned that there is a $25 discount off of the CommitChange just for grassroots members. So we appreciate everybody's time, but 1 second, there's actually one other thing. I just want to make sure there's not a last question.
That was me just posting out my email address for everybody.
Well, there's a question from Lindsay Parsons. What's the discount for grassroots? Again, that's it's $25 off of the essentials package, correct, Jason?
Yeah, that's correct. So typically it's $79. We have lots of different tiers of service that we'll be releasing over the course of the next year. Again, we're growing very quickly, and we plan to have some CRM tools in our professionals version. But you can get this essentials package that's typically $79 a month for only $50 a month for grassroots members. There's no contracts, there's no setup fees, and we'll set up everything for you. So really a pretty cool discount and pretty cool partnership that we've got running with grassroots.
And the second part of it is, would it be any more than for a small nonprofit with a 100K budget? Can you answer that, Jason?
Yeah. So if your organization is under $500,000 a year annual budget, the reduced rate is the same as the grassroots discount rate. So certainly we have an implementation concierge that we can offer to get everything integrated with your website. But yeah, we also have the free version. $50 a month is going to work. You can use some of the basic functionality of CommitChange with the free version, and you are able to run some basic crowdfunding campaigns with the free version. So if the paid version is not something that's really an option for you, certainly you can use the free piece there.
Great. And Latoya, the Jason's contact information is in the chat, but again, I'll also drop that into the email that I plan out sending out. But again, we appreciate everybody attending. Thank you, Jason. Have a great day.
Thanks so much, you guys. Happy holidays.
Take care.
Bye-bye now.